Welcome back, everyone. My name is Steele, and I'm glad to present to you my creation. Please like, share, and subscribe. It would help a small writer keep her dream alive. I want to give a thank you to my Shay, who always lights my way. Thank you. It's looking like Anarchy by Steele. Chapter 19. Holding on. Life on the land settled into a rhythm. Not easy, not gentle, but steady. Every morning began with the same quiet ritual. The soft sputter and hiss of an old percolator brewing coffee over the fire pit, its rich, earthy aroma curling through the crisp dawn air. We pulled on worn boots, lacing them tight and double knotting. The familiar tug was a small comfort against uncertainty. Inside, the kitchen table became our command center. The battered map of the property, dog-eared, frayed at the edges, and smudged with dirt and coffee stains, lay spread out beneath a chipped mason jar used as a paperweight. Chalk and string marked the lines of our defenses. Traps laid carefully along game trails, clusters of wild blackberries waiting to be picked, and fence lines in need of mending. Everyone had a role, a purpose carved out in the quiet urgency of survival. Marcus took the perimeter. He moved like a shadow through the trees, tightening wire fences until they hummed with tension. Between posts, he strung tin cans scavenged from the old church up the road, each one ready to clatter if anything disturbed the silence. Small bells, once part of a forgotten altar, hung from low branches, their faint jingles a delicate alarm against the night. Ricky and Kiori became our engineers, building solar stills to coax water from the earth and air. The radio was their obsession, a fragile lifeline to the outside world. Some nights, when the weather shifted just right, it would sputter to life with faint static, ghostly voices crackling through the ether like distant thunder. Geneva and Layla took to the gardens. They mapped edible plants with patient hands, learned the shapes of leaves and the seasons of roots. They tended rows of corn and beans, coaxing life from stubborn soil, and watched the traps with careful eyes, always alert for movement or the telltale snap of a wire. I settled into organizing the night watches, the shifts that kept us awake when the rest of the world slept. We worked in pairs, always overlapping, always alert. Shifts rotated every few days to keep us sharp, and we logged every detail in a worn notebook by the front door: names, hours, patrol directions. When one came off watch, they left notes for the next. Movements heard, animals sighted, anything that felt out of place. Sometimes there was only the wind. Other times the woods felt too quiet, too still, and you could almost feel the forest holding its breath. We moved silently when on patrol, using hand signals drilled into muscle memory. A closed fist meant stop. 2 fingers pointed forward meant move. A circling finger meant to switch direction. It kept things tight. It kept us alive. Inside the main house, Uncle Ray's old CB radio sat on a rickety shelf, powered by the solar rig he'd built years ago. It worked. Sometimes. Mostly static. But we never stopped checking. Each evening, just before the last light slipped behind the trees, we held the circle up, as Layla called it. We gathered on the porch steps or stood around the fire pit, sharing updates, assigning duties, and trading supplies. Sometimes the mood was tense, sometimes light. Laughter would break out, or a comfortable silence would settle. It was how we held each other together, How we remembered that this place was ours to protect. Some nights, after my watch ended, I'd walk barefoot to the edge of the clearing. The earth was cool beneath my feet, the grass damp with dew. I'd pause, listening. The darkness here was deeper than any city night. No hum of streetlights, no distant engines, no wail of sirens. Just crickets, the whisper of wind threading through pine needles. And beneath it all, the pulse of something we'd built together. Not safety, not really, but purpose. Hope didn't look like it used to. It looked like a line of drying nets hanging in the sun, heavy with fish. Like jars of peaches passed from one hand to another across the table. Like Ricky patiently teaching Layla how to field strip a rifle, both of them laughing despite everything. Like Kaori sketching solar panels in the dirt, brow furrowed but eyes bright with determination. It looked like all of us, choosing again and again to hold the line. Together. Chapter 20. Closed in. For the first time in weeks, it felt like maybe, just maybe, we could make something work here. A rhythm, a purpose. I could breathe again. The moon was rising slowly behind the pines as I walked the northern edge of the fence. It was quiet, so quiet you could hear the branches settle. A hush had settled over the woods like a blanket pulled tight. The kind of quiet that made the hairs on your arms stand up. I stopped. Something had shifted. Not the wind. That had stilled. Not an animal. Animals rustled and darted, broke twigs and carried on. This wasn't that. This was silence. The wrong kind. Heavy. Pressing. I crouched low, boots rooted to the earth, ears straining past the sound of my own breath. There. A faint crunch. Not sharp, not accidental. Measured. Heavy. My heart thudded once, hard, and I brought the rifle up, barrel steady, breath caught in my throat. I pressed my back against a wide pine trunk, its bark rough against my shoulder blades. Another sound. Softer this time, like someone trying not to be heard. Steps. Then, voices. Low. Not laughing, not talking. Not the idle murmur of hunters or hikers. These voices carried tension, purpose. 2? No, 3, maybe 4, too many. I couldn't make out the words, but the cadence was wrong. There was no ease in it. No wondering confusion. These people weren't lost. They were moving with intent. I stepped back into the undergrowth, using the shadows like a cloak. My finger rested just outside the trigger. The cold curve of the guard a reminder to wait, to be sure. Another footstep. Closer. Then a glint. Just a flash of something catching the moonlight. Metal. Gone just as quick. They weren't alone. And they weren't here by mistake. I moved. Fast, quiet. Hopefully quiet enough. Breath tight. Every step is a calculation. Don't trip. Don't snap a twig. Don't make a sound. The leaves seemed louder than they should have been. My pulse pounded in my ears. I hit the fence line and followed it south, feet skimming over familiar ground. The brush pulled at my pants, snagging just enough to slow me. I didn't stop. By the time I reached the clearing, the house had just come into view. Safe, lit from inside with the soft glow of oil lamps. People I loved were in there, asleep or just starting to stir. I opened my mouth to shout. Something, anything. But the sound came first. A jingle. A single bell rang out from the eastern line. Then another, sounding far. Sharp, sudden, piercing, unnatural. The perimeter line was tripped. Not just passed by, prodded, pressed. Inside, I heard my mother's voice rise. Sharp, commanding, alert. No trace of fear. A door banged open, boots on floorboards. Kaori shot upright from her place by the hearth, hair a mess, eyes wide. "Melody?" she called, half a breath behind panic. But I didn't answer. I was already moving again. Rifle raised, steps fast and sure. Into the dark. The woods, once still, erupted behind me. Voices rising, no longer whispers. Shouts. Orders barked out. Boots pounding. Coming closer. The line had held, for now. But the storm was at our doorstep. Thank you for listening to Chapter 19 and 20. Please like, comment and share. This is the ending of It's Looking Like Anarchy by S.D. Steele. Thank you for watching.